Tiger's Den. This is Ben again, bringing you some more Magic the Gathering Arena. And I'm going to take these first few moments here to see if I can figure out what is going on with these invalid parameters that I'm getting from my chat. So while people are trickling in the live stream, I'll just have a look, see if I can click on something that will make it work. It could just be that it's because of the unified chat that I set up. So, all right, I guess I'll just look into that in a little bit. I thought I had it working because it wasn't showing that before I went live, but it is now. So, all right, we'll live with it. If I miss a comment or something, I apologize. But yeah, so let's get into it. So today, as you saw in the stream title, we're going to brew, or actually we already have brewed, and we're going to take a look at some Death's Shadow in Standard. That's right, you heard it. Death's Shadow coming to you in Standard, Magic the Gathering Arena 2019. Let's have a look. So first I'm going to back up a bit. We had this Grixis Beats deck, which I've retitled here. So this is where this deck idea came from, because I was looking at these cool, cheap creatures in the Grixis colors, along with Chandra Acolyte of Flame, Mu Yanling, and all the great removal and discard that we have. And in our first video, the Brewing Grixis Beats video, I talked about how this felt like two decks to me. It felt like Modern Humans, and it felt like Modern Death Shadow. And at that point, I was kind of leading into the humans side of it, with a lot of creatures, some of whom were disruptive, like, you know, making our opponents discard cards, or blowing up their creatures, like Dreadhorde Butcher. But since then, I've actually started tooling this deck a little bit differently. And that is where the inspiration for this new deck came from. So this one I've renamed to Legion's Shadow because it's kind of a Death Shadow-like deck, but with Knight of the Ebon Legion instead of Death Shadow. And this deck is just literal Shadow. Obviously, there are not literal Death Shadows in this deck. That would be weird. And also probably won't even be that good because we don't have fetch lands in this format, so we're not able to consistently shock ourselves down to a life total where we can consistently deploy our Death Shadows in a timely manner. But anyways, this is a Death Shadow-like deck that feels to me very much like piloting Grixis Death Shadow in Modern. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Death Shadow in Modern and how it works, it actually started out as I think it was a Jund deck that then became 4-color, adding blue, or some were blue, some were white, and then it kind of settled into 2 builds, one of which was Grixis and one of which was green-based. And the Grixis one, I love playing. I haven't played it in a while. I haven't played much Modern lately because I have not liked the format for quite some time, but Grixis Death Shadow is really cool. So it revolves around a card called Death Shadow, which is a 1-drop. It's a 13/13, costs 1 black, but it has -1/-1 for every point of life that you have. So the idea is that you shock yourself down using shock lands and fetch lands to find them. You get yourself down to 10, 9, 8, 7 life. You play your Death Shadow, and it starts beating face really hard. It also has some cards like Gurmag Angler, which is a 5/5 in black. It has a converted mana cost of 7, but by exiling cards from your graveyard, you can reduce that to 1. So lots of these undercosted, really cheap, very powerful beaters, and then rounding it out with cantrips and filtering and a lot of discard effects. So what we're doing here is actually very similar to what Death Shadow is doing. We have these creatures that are undercosted, that give us a lot of value as the game grinds on, or a lot of threat on our opponent as the game goes along, coupled with removal, discard, and ways of recurring those. So our Knight of the Ebon Legion, that's pretty much our Death Shadow here. Our Gurmag Anglers, we have things like Rotting Regisar, which we have 2 of in here now. Embodiment of Agonies, which I threw in because I had a couple copies and thought, why not? Let's see, we have lots of different mana costs in our deck. And this guy has been proving himself to be a great addition. I played it once as a 2/2 just so that I could trigger Spectacle the next turn because I only had 3 lands. But even in that game, it was great. It ate a remove. It got in for a few damage. It got in our Spawn of Mayhem. It chomped a blocker, and it ate a removal spell that then didn't go at one of our other creatures. And we won that game pretty handily. So on top of that, we have the one part that I haven't talked about in the Death Shadow deck yet is the best card of Magic that was ever printed in all of history, Snapcaster Mage. Thank you, Tiago-chan. You are a wizard. We owe you a great deck, because that is a fantastic card and I love playing it. So Snapcaster Mage is a 2/1 for 2 mana with Flash that when it comes into play, it basically does what Chandra does here, where you can cast a spell from your graveyard that turn by paying its mana cost. That's effectively what it does. What it really does is it gives the card flashback. So Chandra Acolyte of Flame is basically our Snapcaster Mage here, because you can do cool things with Snapcaster, where like use Snapcaster and Cryptic Command, counter their spell, draw a card, but that takes a ton of mana. So what you're often doing with Snapcaster in Death's Shadow decks is you're flashing back a counter spell sometimes, a discard spell, or a cantrip. And so I put 4 Opt in this deck, thinking, we've had some mana problems. Maybe we want to run some Opts that will not only help us fix our colors, but that'll make our deck a little bit slimmer, make it easier to find what we're looking for, because we do have some wrong half problems in this deck, where we just draw all removal and no threats, or vice versa, and then we can't deal with our opponent's board. So I put these Opts in here. They've been great, and Chandra flashing back an Opt isn't usually the highest value play that you have, but it's been consistently pretty good when everyone's just top decking. Get an extra scry and a draw. So really excited to try this out. Oh, and I cut down to 23 lands again because of the Opt. And because of that, I had one more card I had to put in, and I just threw the Dreadhorde Invasion in main deck. I don't think this is right, but I wanted to try it out, and I did just win a game with it versus blue-black control by sticking this in the late stage of the game and then having that beater that replaces itself and gets bigger and bigger and eventually lifelinks. I did go down to 2 Spawn of Mayhem from 3 because I found that, and this is why I don't think Dreadhorde Invasion is right, there were just too many times when we got matched up against the red deck, and sometimes Spawn actually turned the game for us because we could get aggressive. We had our big evasive beater that walled to their side, and then it would start getting bigger because we're already at low life. But of course the problem is that we're probably at like 6 life at best at that point, and getting hit for 1 every turn is a huge problem if we haven't been pressuring their life total. So anyways, other changes to this deck have been we've gotten rid of the hasty 2-drops because they, in the other version of this deck, it's really nice to have those because they're giving us a lot of, hasty pressure, and that's what that deck wants to do, is pressure very early and overtax our opponent's removal. But in this one, with the kind of grindier plan, and the more value-oriented just cast a bomb and then a bomb and then a bomb after discarding all their spells, removing all their creatures, those don't fit in quite as well, and I did try the Dreadhorde Butcher here, but just found that it too often didn't really do enough. I took Mu Yanling out before for the other version of this deck. I put her back into this one because, again, I just wanted a few more, a diversity of good, powerful cards for our 3-drop slot to kind of top things off here, especially after removing our hasty 2-drops. So I did actually ult her in the game I just mentioned against blue-black control, and she won the game even through an opposing Narset, which stuck on the board for a while and turned off her emblem, or made us just draw 1 on their turn instead of drawing 4 to 5 cards on our turn. So that's where we're going to start today. I'm just going to do best of ones because it's already a little bit late for me to get started streaming, and yeah, I have a big convention tomorrow that I'm going to be tabling at and doing game demos, so that'll be really fun. So yeah, let's jump into some games here. Just do some best of ones, knock out a bunch, see how it performs. I've probably gone about 50-50 with this build. As you can see, I've won 12 games today. They've all been with this deck. It's probably played 25-ish. So we'll see how it goes. I did get a good sleep last night. I am still a little bit on the sleep-deprived side, but we'll keep this. But hopefully you'll be playing a little tighter today. Do we want to lead on shock? I don't think so. I could shock this in to have a turn 1 shock, but because we don't have a 2-drop, the only way where we get punished for this is if our opponent plays a 1-drop and then we draw a 2-drop that we also want to cast this turn. So instead, we're just going to do that. I don't think we're going to want to Lightning Strike here, so I will put that into play tapped to not take damage, and then next turn we can cast Chandra. Oh, okay, so I got punished for that because I would love to have been able to kill that Incubation Druid. Although them leading on tapped Watery Grave, it seemed unlikely that was what I was going to want to do. So the question is, do I want to kill a thing, Or do I just want to play one of these threats and start getting in? And I think the answer is actually I'm going to play this tapped. I'm going to kill their incubation druid and pass it back to them. That gives us a couple of lines next turn. Unfortunately, we won't be able, no matter what we draw, to recast the Shock with Chandra if that's what we want to do. Ooh, okay, this is not bad for us. And this is a spicy thing going on. See, so it would have been great actually if we'd have put the Sulphur Falls in and then drawn another red source, because we could Chandra and then flash back the Shock. But as it is, we're just going to run this out here right now and have the 2 mana up. I don't want them to untap because I don't know if they're running counterspells. And obviously, if Thief of Sanity connects, that is often the game right there. So I'm just going to take care of that when their shields are down and we know that we can deal with it. Oh, our opponent's named Delver Guy. A man or woman after my own heart. I love Delver of Secrets. I'm sad that it's not more playable in Modern right now, but it actually has been gaining some playability. Okay, so Hydraid Krasis. I think we're just going to run out the Spawn of Mayhem. I could get Chandra in and then flash back the Shock next turn or just kill the Hydraid Krasis right now, but a 2-2 Krasis isn't really that threatening. So again, I'm just going to put this down while opponent's tapped out, and hopefully we will draw another red source so that we can, you know, Chandra and Shock at extra value. What? What? Did we just get Crawl Harpoonered? Oh, I can't believe it. I love this stream because we get to see all this weird stuff that our opponents do that you just never expect to see. Oh, man. Okay, so there's the red source we've been looking for. Opponent is representing Negate here. So the question is, do I want to run out the Regisar? Which, even if they have Syncopate, we can pay through a Syncopate here. And I think the answer is no. Let's just tax their cards, make them have it. Okay, they do not have it. And then we get to go to Value Town on their Krasis. That was actually pretty risky on our part, because we would get really blown out by a Negate there, because then they'd be able to attack our Chandra and kill her with us effectively. All she would have done is gotten a Negate out of their hand. But, okay, well there's another Krasis. That's pretty nice for them. But I guess they would have, you know, countered her, not the subsequent removal. Okay, so here we're going to take a peek at their hand. We're definitely taking this Hostage Taker because we do not want them... I mean, they can cast down our Regisar. So maybe actually, because they Hostage Taker, they have to pay 7, but they'll be able to do that. They'll be able to Hostage Taker and deal with our Regisar. So the question is, do we leave this on top so that we can double spell next turn? But they only have a Crawl Harpooner in hand, so I don't think that the double spell is going to be relevant that turn. So we'll get rid of that. And then I believe we will bedevil their Krasis so that we can keep Chandra around for another flashback. I like getting in for some damage here. Oh, actually, you know, with her being at 2, it probably was correct to have plussed her, so that we could flash something back this turn. But yeah, I wanted to get some threat on them, but that was probably wrong. There's another Thief of Sanity, making us regret our choice there. And Crawl Harpooner, not having any targets to fight, but 9-2 Crawl Harpooner, that's pretty cool. Not gonna lie. So a Lantern would be nice. Or a Shock, that's equally nice. Because then we can do... So if I leave... If I cast the Rotting Regisar, I'm going to be discarding one of these cards. So what I think I will do is Shock the Thief of Sanity. I will roll up Chandra. so she can flash something back. And then we haven't seen any counterspells in their deck, so I'm going to... Well, their cards are known. If they draw something better than Kral Harpooner, then we're sad that we've done this, but unless it has haste, we can flash this back next turn with Chandra, and then also have a Regisaur on the board. Okay, that's fine. They find 2 lands, so you might look at that and say that's not great, they didn't get to buff this guy and they just got more lands they don't need, but that's actually really good for them because their next 2 turns would have been spent drawing lands, and now they're going to be spent getting to the next cards in their deck, which is going to be way better for them. So here we have 5 mana that lets us cast all of these cards very neatly. So we're going to do this. We will shock. Wait for them to see if they want to cast down their own guy, I guess is what's going on here. Make sure it taps the right land, because we don't want to tap down to... we don't want to tap down to 1 or less black. And then we'll play Knight. They do have a cast down here, but that's their only action in hand. So, if they cast on one of these guys, we still have the other one plus a Chandra on board. You know, now that I think about it, I think we have a Thought Erasure in here, don't we? Okay, yeah, that was a misplay on my part. We could have walled their guy and then Thought Erasered them to get rid of that cast down and had both of these threats on board. So, yeah, big misplay on my part there. I wasn't thinking about that. I should have checked my graveyard before I did that, is basically what should have happened. Alright, let's take an Opt here, see what we get. Opt has been doing so much work in this deck. I absolutely love it. Alright, Steam Vents into Steam Vents. That was less work than it often does, but it was a non-zero amount of work, so there's that. I think I'm going to plus our Chandra and try to keep her around for longer. They can't really attack into our Knight of the Ebon Legion, and I'm just going to run that out, because we want lots of lands for our Knight of the Ebon Legion to pump with. So opponent has all the mana here. They can just, you know, make the world's biggest Hydroid Crisis, because this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, so they would have a 10-10, draw 5, gain 5, which that would just slam the door on us. Alright, they do not swing into Chandra, which is good, because that would have been a terrible misplay. So the question is, how much do I care about this 3 mana that they have on the table right now? And the answer is, I think that I would rather plus her again, have this Knight of the Ebon Legion to block with, and just keep on getting her up to subsequent flashbacks. So we're going to go in with Knight. We can pump this Knight, and then pump this Knight on the block. So we'll do this here. That's enough to trigger... No, I should have played this one first to see if they were going to counterspell it, but again, we haven't seen any counterspells yet. So actually, it's probably better to do it this way so that we would see if they would remove this Knight of the Ebon Legion. Okay, so there's another Opt. If we Opt, we can't pump both Knights. So let's take a look here. Yeah, there's nothing that I don't really know what's in their hand, but I imagine they're sandbagging the land because we have relevant targets for their removal, and if they had an X, I don't imagine they're saving up for another X spell. So, let's go in with this guy. Oops. Oh, shoot. Okay, well, that was an oops. Guess we'll do this. They probably chump with Llanowar Elves. Yep. I could hold this Knight of the Ebon Legion back to block, which is what I think I'm going to do. I probably want to plus Chandra before I do that. And you can see Chandra doing an amazing Snapcaster Mage impression here. I mean, make no mistake, Chandra is nowhere near as powerful as Snapcaster Mage. If I could trade all 4 of these Chandras for like 2 Snapcasters, I would do it in a heartbeat, because, as I said, Snapcaster Mage is life. But you can see she's flashed back, I think, 2 cards for us. Yeah, 2 shocks. And should have also flashed back that thought erasure. So, okay, opponent has elected not to attack, so I will now... Ooh. I like that Legion's End. Let's keep that on top. That also lets us peek at their hand, which can be super valuable here. So I think I will swing first. No, actually, I'm just going to see what's in their hand. This gives me more information so I can make better decisions about what to do with my resources here. Which is a really undervalued, I think, element of Legion's End. The information that it gives you. Yep, they're sandbagging a land like we expected. So at this point, we are safe to swing in. I think that we will just make the elementals now because we have 2 flashbacks off of Chandra. We will pump a guy because there's no real reason not to, hold back mana here. And then we have them on a 1-turn clock. So yeah, as I said, doing a really good Snapcaster impression here, giving us 2 spells, threatening 2 more spells, and then bashing in for 2 just like a Snapcaster would. It's, you know, pretty much the same card. Alright, opponent just passes through. We will do this again, because that gives us lethal without having to pump, which probably won't be relevant, but could be. I guess they could have like a root snare or something, and then we're sad we didn't flash back up. Wait, I guess we only have shock there. Okay, so they have a cast down here, but we'll just pump this guy. There we go. Got him. So, pretty good first showing for Literal Shadow. Another Crackling Drake. I opened so many Crackling Drakes with you guys, it's great. I mean, I already have the 4 because the first deck that I built for this was, is it Phoenix? But, you know, it's still fun to open it. You get to hear that cool animation. You get to see the quadruple color weight, which is beautiful. I love so much that they've started embracing color weight as ways of pushing cards while keeping them more balanced. I mean, they've done that in the past, obviously. Like, you know, Cryptic Command is triple blue and a colorless. But they have moved away from that until more recently, and they've done that by their own admission. Like, yeah, we used to do this more, and then we stopped doing it, and we're going to start doing it again. So it was very intentional on their part that they started or restarted using that as a balancing mechanism. Oh, well, that's terrible for us. Yeah, turn 2 Cavalcade. We're on the draw. We don't have removal for their turn 1 play. I mean, they could just Rick for a long time. I don't think we want another shock land here. I would rather just try to find more ways of interaction because we only really have 2 moderately expensive ones, and all of these shock lands are, ugh. I mean, it's worth it to shock it in and use it to cast a thing. This is the thing that gives us the best mana for subsequent turns, so we'll use that one. We're going to put in a stop here because we want... we don't want to kill their... Oh, gee, okay. I don't think there's a reason for us to continue this game. Well, I mean, I guess we have Bedevil for the Chandra, so... Alright, we're going to fog a damage by doing this, I guess. I mean, well, we're fogging 2 damage this way, because the Grim Initiate can't attack, and then the Cavalcade doesn't trigger off of it. So we're taking 4 damage instead of 6. Going to 10. It's very, very hard, without pretty much perfect draws of your own, to beat this curve on this deck. So I guess we'll shock in another land and go to 8. They'll take us to 6, but we have to kill the Chandra because we're just kind of dead otherwise. So we have black, red, red, or black, black, red. Yeah. So we'll kill your Chandra. We have to do it now because if we go to their main step or their main phase, they'll be able to activate her before we have priority. Oh my god. That was a fantastic curve for our opponent. I mean, technically we live at 2 here, but yeah, 1 drop into Cavalcade, into Chandra is just back-breaking. Let's go out in style. Interesting thing about shocking in lands, you can kill yourself by shocking in a land by paying the 2 life, but only if you have exactly 2 life. If you have 1 life, you can't activate, or you can't use the triggered ability off of the shock land. Actually, it's not a triggered ability, but you can't use the ability off of the shock land because you have to pay 2 life, and you can't pay with a resource that you don't have. So you can only do it at exactly 2 life to kill yourself. That first hand would have been really good if we'd had any amount of black mana, or any amount of black lands in our hand. I think that these first 2 have been pretty much unkeepable. Well, I mean, I guess we have Lightning Strike, Moo, but yeah, I don't think we can afford... This is the best one we've seen. I don't think we have much of a chance going to 5 because, going to 5 and being on the draw, those are such huge disadvantages for us. But so I think I'll get rid of this, and probably the Knight of the Ebon Legion, strangely. It's a very good card, and it's our only 1 drop, but it doesn't do much in the very early stages of the game. And I don't think that playing, play that, hope that it resolves, or, hope that we eat some removal or something, and then get into Chandra, like, that doesn't seem like a winning strategy to me. So I'm going to keep my removal, keep my discard, and hope that we can slam on the brakes. Ooh, okay, so now we're getting punished because they have no removal. Well, Circuitous Route is definitely the pick here. We will get rid of that in a heartbeat. We will bemoan all of the removal spells in our hand. I mean, Legion's End, I assume they're on Field of the Dead, so Legion's End can take care of a whole bunch of zombos. But growth. Alright, this makes 1 mana of any color, because it's the pay mana to not sacrifice it land. Alright, so let's make some guys. All attack. Next turn we'll probably flash back Thought Erasure, because even if they cast the Growth Spiral in response, they'll be drawing another card, plus probably 1 unknown card in their hand. Oh, you're just going to Growth Spiral main phase. Put down another land, gain 3 more life. Oh no, not our Boreal Grazer. Well, we have Legion's End for it, so... Oh man, we need to not draw these lands. Alright, so I think we're actually just going to Legion's End this guy. But first we're going to... Actually, let's put our land out first, because we're going to use that one either way, and just make sure that it taps us correctly. Because, yeah, we just need 2 black and a blue, which we can do fine. Even if they are sandbagging a land right now, which they're not, we still get the Surveil off of this, so it would still do something. And I don't think we got another Bedevil there, so that seems fine. We're going to get rid of this because it's going to have the damage that our Chandra can deal to them. And they haven't found a Field of the Dead, which I imagine they're playing. Oh, no, this is the Gates deck. Okay. So now we kind of wanted that, that previous Bedevil, but, yes, we're going to do this. Enters tapped. We're going to Bedevil here. And, okay, they're at 30 life now, so I'm not going to be able to race with just this Chandra, so I'm going to plus her, leave her at 3 for a while, so that if I have another thing that I need to flash back for... Oh boy. So here's a bunch more lands for them, so they'll be able to do Gateway Colossus, or whatever other really cool things that the Gates deck does, which, that sounds sarcastic, but it does do really cool things. Like, this is a legitimate deck. I feel like it just is outclassed by a lot of things in the meta right now. Like, if you're playing these cards, you're probably better off just killing people with infinite zombies. I don't think that this Thought Erasure is ever going to make them discard a card now that they have all these lands, so we're just going to do this for the Surveil. Yep, see, both those times, we got rid of a land that we didn't want. We've gotten a lot of lands here. We started on 2, I think. We've gotten up to 6 while surveilling 2 away. I guess we just surveilled 1 away. Oh my god, and there's another one. Well... They're holding a card in hand. It's probably another land because they know that we can flashback with Thought Erasure. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus some... Yeah, I think that they're just sandbagging a land here. So, I will do this. I will do this. I'm going to play this land instead of sandbagging it, because we'll have to shock ourselves to get it into play untapped. And if we do something like drawing a Knight of the Ebon Legion, we might want to double pump. Okay, Opt is pretty good here. Especially because we can double opt with Chandra. We're going to get rid of the Legion's End because we have not seen any fields and they're probably not playing it. Okay, that's what we were talking about. So let's... Chandra, make some guys.
I brought company.
Play the Regisar. And hope that a 7-6 can do it for us. So, Riding Regisar has been performing pretty well for me. Sometimes it just gets, you know, cast down or something, or they double up on a burn spell, or they do it after you've had to discard to it, but before you can attack with it, and then you feel terrible. Notably, our opponent doesn't... Oh, well. Okay, that's going to be a good game, I think.
You'll get him, buddy.
Yeah, Mass Manipulation was a really, really good draw for them. Oh, you know, that's probably what they were sandbagging. So if I would have thought that they ever would have been running Mass Manip, I probably would have flashed back that Thought Erasure, but that was not a thing that was on my radar for the Gate deck. We're going to scoop. Actually, let's see what they were sandbagging. Gates Ablaze. Okay, that's another one that makes sense that, you know, we could have made them discard. But yeah, Mass Manipulation there, that was pretty insane. But anyway, getting back to Regisar. Actually, I'm going to cancel out of here for a second so that I can just talk about this while giving it my full attention. So Riding Regisar has been performing really well. I like it as a 2-of alongside having, you know, this is pretty much a 3-drop, this is a 3-drop, you know, 3-drop, 3-drop. So it feels good having this nice cluster of diverse threats here, especially when we can do things like opt into them or opt them away when we don't want them, or surveil them away or surveil to them. The reason I'm only on 2 Regisar right now, even though it's probably the best beater in the deck, is that it has a hidden anti-synergy with Knight of the Ebon Legion. And that is because Riding Regisar makes you want to cast every card that you draw every turn. Knight of the Ebon Legion wants you to hold back mana so that you can pump it when you need to, or pump it as many times as possible. Also, Knight of the Ebon Legion makes you want to play your lands out so that you can pump it more often, whereas Riding Regisar makes you want to sandbag lands that you can throw away to Regisar if you draw a conditional spell, which we do have a fair number of. We have Bedevils, which do nothing on some board states and are amazing on some board states. We have Legion's End, Duress. All of these spells we really don't... we can only cast in some situations to much effect, but they're all really, really good in those situations. So I don't think I want to go up over 2 of these. Maybe I'll try 3. And they work fine together. Like, we've seen games where we've played both and felt great about it. But drawing this guy later in the game, it usually feels a lot better than drawing it early, especially because, like I said, we're investing all this mana into pumping with Knight of the Ebon Legion. So that's the reason there's only 2 in there right now, but I've really been liking the 2. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's play some more Magic the Gathering Arena. Riding Regisar is actually another reason that I'm not running any main deck Permission. I do have, I think it's 2 Negate, 1 Disdainful Stroke in the sideboard right now. Obviously, Permission is really weak when you have a card that makes you discard a card every turn. Because you want, again, with those other conditional spells, you want to hold them for the right moment. This is a pretty keepable hand. But, okay, Breeding Pool, we'll just go Watery Grave. But the other reason I'm not running it is because we're often tapping down our mana pretty aggressively. No negate here. Okay. Okay, they got Biogenic Ooze, which we can play around by holding up removal when they would want to cast it. I'm okay with their Jade Light Ranger because it can only get up to just big enough to die to Lightning Strike, even if they are able to scrub a few cards away. This they can recast, so I think I'm just taking the Sabotage here and turning off their ability to interact with us. I'm not super in love with this Knight of the Ebon Legion because I want to find another red source for Chandra, which this will mean we can't do this turn, but we actually have... so we're going to want to Lightning Strike the Jade Light Ranger here, pretty likely. Okay, so you see two lands. They don't really need the lands, but now they're two closer to action. But anyway, so I'm going to do that because I can Lightning Strike and Knight of the Ebon Legion here. If they hadn't played a, I mean, we knew we knew that they had the Jade Light Ranger. If we hadn't, we would still have had Opt and Knight of the Ebon Legion as a nice line for that turn as well. Okay, there's Regisar. So we need to keep this mana open for Bedevil this turn because, yeah, beginning of end step. So we really, really, really don't want them to be able to start pumping their ooze. So we let that resolve. We can't do anything about that trigger, but we will, while they're tapped way down, kill that one so that it can't grow the second one. There's another Legion's End. I think I actually like Legion's ending here quite a bit, and then getting in with Knight, although maybe we'll attack with Knight and see if they block. Which they may, because taking 4 damage and letting Knight of the Ebon Legion get bigger is a pretty scary prospect. So yep. It is unfortunate that now we can't play Opt, but I do like just getting that off of the battlefield for no card investment on our part. Especially because we've seen Explore creatures, which Legion's End hits most of. Also hits Hydra and Crisis, so that's cool, although, you know, they draw the cards and everything, so it's not the best. Do you have anything in here for one that can kill that? Of course not, it's a 5/5. Alright, so I think we're going to lead on the Opt, see what we hit. Then we'll probably just Legion... Oh, actually, no, we can... Oh, no, we can't do that. We can't both Legion's End and pump Knight of the Ebon Legion. A 4th land... Or 5th land, rather. I think I like, because that will give Chandra the ability to flash back a... I'll give Chandra the ability to flash back a... Ooh, that was a really good one for us. A Thought Erasure this turn. So they can Mass Manipulation our Knight of the Ebon Legion, but I don't think they will. Holding my breath, though, because I really don't want them to, because I would really rather just make them discard their... Oh, looks like they're going for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... Oh, no, Chemist's Insight. Okay, okay. That is really... I mean, the Chemist's Insight is really good for them. Being able to redraw that many cards, getting another draw off the Growth Spiral, being able to jumpstart this later, getting a Scry off Temple of Mystery, yeah, that's really great. They are 7 cards ahead of us. Of course, that's not all card draw, that's because they have been... You know, they took some cards from here, some lands from here, and put them into play and all that. So, yeah, our play here is definitely... We don't even want to attack with Knight, because if they do double block, which I don't think they would, but if they do, we don't want to lose Knight of the Ebon Legion, and we want to have